Hey folks, Scotty Roberts here. You are watching the live pre-show. We go for about 3 minutes because at 3 minutes after the top of the hour, 9:03, we go live over on the radio station. Now, I've got to let you know something. If the whole setup here looks a little different than normal, it's because it is. My whole internet fried out at about 6 o'clock tonight. And so they're not going to be able to do anything about it until tomorrow morning. So here we are. We are on the phone. You know what it feels like? It feels like broadcasting from the studio of the South. I can't remember what I called it when we were down in Louisiana. Remember down in Louisiana, we had to use the phone to do the most of our broadcasting. Technical difficulties. I'm doing the show with my phone. That's right. Can you all hear me okay? Can you hear me? Can you see me okay? Is everything working so far? Hey, Sarah Yusuf. Hey, Kalina. I always do that. Field guy, I saw you were here. I got to see if I can scroll easy on this or not. Who all is in here? We got field guys so far. I think I've hit you all so far. We've got many more stacking up out there. Come on in to the chat room. Don't be afraid. Oh, where is that? I'm getting an echo. Oh, I see where I'm getting the echo. Shut that off. So it's not the internet, it's my computer. It's the program I use to connect to the radio station. Popped up on there. All right, guys, we got to go live. So I'm going to go dark. You sit back. And let's do this. Let's try this from the phone. Stand by. Let's see. We're going to go here. This is going to be so much fun. Here we go. All right. Boom. Try again. Boom.
Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
That look as choppy to you as it did to me. I don't know how that showed up on your end. I'm going to try that one more time. Here's the show opener. You know, for those of you who might be joining us for the first time, it's not usually this rinky-dink. We usually have this all under control. But tonight we've got a special case because I have to broadcast from my phone because our internet is out for the night. Let me back this off just a little bit. There we go. And so everything is on my phone tonight. Let's try that one more time. Show opener. Here we go. Round two. Supposedly. Everything's slower on my phone. So let's see. Try one more time. Good grief. Come on.
The Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Well, I have no idea how that broadcasts, folks. So hopefully all of you out there, both on the radio and in the chat room and our YouTube channel and on Facebook and on Twitter and all those different places where this is playing. That was the show opener that you usually hear every night. It sounded very choppy on my end, so I don't know if it worked or not. It's the phone. It says I'm broadcasting in 5G even. Oh, it worked, said Field Guy. Well, that's good. On my end, it went something like you could hear Race Hobbs, my announcer who did the opener. He said, Scott, Intrepid, yeah, that's what it sounded like, and it chopped all over the place. Well, at least we're here, And I'm so glad that you're all here and that you decided to stop by. We already lost one viewer from the chat room. They must have said, wow, what about this chicken shit outfit here? So anyway, welcome everybody. Steph, good to see you. Sean, good to see you. Good to have everybody in here tonight. We're going to pick up right away where we left off with the Jinn the other night. And, you know, this is a topic that to me is utterly fascinating. To think that, now, ask yourself this question. Sit back and go, self, do I believe that genies are real? Now, think of all the things you've seen about genies over the years in your life. Now, if you've studied them at all from a paranormal point of view or a metaphysical point of view, that's different. Think of the way most people see genies. It's either something like Robin Williams voicing the blue genie from Aladdin, or who played him in the movie? Will Smith. Yeah, take that. Will Smith did it. And who else did we have playing genies? There were other Tales of the Arabian Nights movies made over the years. We've seen genies. And of course, my favorite when I was growing up was the ubiquitous reruns of shows like I Dream of Jeannie with Barbara Eden. Might I say, no sexist drop of blood in my body, but hubba hubba. To use an old phrase. But yeah, Barbara Eden was probably one of those first crushes I had as a young boy, and I didn't know why until a little later. You know, it was interesting. The guy who played Admiral Nelson, was he Admiral? No, Major Nelson in that show, Larry Hagman. I had once seen him interview in the mid 1980s. I think it was when he was doing the show Dallas, playing JR in Dallas. And he said, you know, in reminiscing, he says, I always wished I could have done a porn version of I Dream of Jeannie. So there you go. Even he saw the efficacy of Barbara Eden. Rafa Ed Segu, if I'm saying that right, Sega, Jinn and ghouls, yes. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit tonight. And I've done 2 other series over the last 4 years on the Jinn. I spent about 4 or 5 episodes 3 or 4 years ago talking about the Jinn. And sometime last year or a year and a half ago, we kind of revived that. And that was more from the angle of looking at, and I don't remember his name off the top of my head. I think it was Weissman, who had his interview with a Jinn. He was a scientist, PhD in his field, and I don't remember all the details about him, but he had an experience that he said, I wasn't sure what it was at first, but I was pretty sure by the time I was done. And after the second one, I think he had 3 different separate experiences. He knew they were Jinn. And he had the ability to question them. And so they were very patient with him, or this Jinn was, and answered a lot of questions. And I think he brought a lot of credibility to the table, which made his story very interesting. Yeah, 1 or 2 of those movies, Steph, you're right. Rafa says, I've seen the shadow people fully wake, nothing about sleep paralysis. Yeah, you and me both, Rafa. Now, I can't say that I have seen a shadow person in the strict sense that we hear the stories of them, but I've seen a hell of a lot of other things. I said when I entered the paranormal field, I had great curiosity. I wanted to know things. I wanted to see things. I grew up with the curiosity. Now, guys, those of you joining us for the first time, I grew up in an era before, almost before color television, before cell phones, certainly. And everything was 4 channels in our black and white TV until I was about 11 or 12 years old when we finally got a color TV. And so ignorance is bliss, says Sarah. Yes. And so I grew up with this strong curiosity. Didn't have, and the reason I bring up the times I grew up in, the late 60s and all through the 70s, graduated to high school in 78. So that puts a context in that era. We didn't have the things we have nowadays for study, for research, and so on. Not the way people can go and research something and within, oh, what, an hour, they can study as much as some people had to study a year for back then. Go to the library and look things up and talk to people and interview. Now you can get it all on your computer time. No broadcasting after midnight. That's right, Kalena. That's they played the Star Spangled Banner and it went off at midnight. So, except for one show, they started broadcasting. If anybody remembers, this is a slight rabbit trail. Horror Incorporated and Creature Feature, Friday nights and Saturday nights, started at midnight. And you could watch the old 1930s and 40s classic horror movies, not new horror. Remember, this is the 60s and the 70s. So all the classic old black and white horror movies way back when. Remember card catalogs? Yes, I do. They have one on display at our local library, which of course is all computerized now. And I said to my kids when we were at the desk, I said a couple of weeks ago, and I said, look at that. I said, that's how we used to have to look up books. You mean you had to flip through cards? And I said, yeah, we did. So that's the way it was done when I was a kid. So anyway, all of that to say, I grew up with these great curiosities, and these curiosities were piqued in me by shows like Star Trek, Horror Incorporated, Outer Limits, The Twilight Zone, all of those. Night Gallery. Anybody remember that? That was the 70s. Those shows used to scare the shit out of me. But at the same time, they built up that curiosity. That's why, remember, I've told you when I was a paper boy, I had an afternoon paper out for the evening paper. There was an evening paper back then, Minneapolis Star. And then they had the Minneapolis Tribune was the morning paper. But on Sunday, if you delivered the afternoon paper, you also needed to deliver the Sunday morning papers, which were about that thick because they had all these inserts. So we'd have to go to the paper shack at about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, get our papers, collate them all. And we had, if you had a big enough paper route, meaning over 20 papers, you had a big yellow metal cart on 2 wheels that you could tie the handle to your bike, tow it behind you. You could just grab the handle and walk it, which is what we did most of the time. And I used to take that heavy thing and jump off the back stoop in our backyard, which was black and night. And we were on a corner lot. And I'd run for the corner where there was a street light. And I had the safety of the circle of yellow incandescence around my feet. Catch my breath. And I'd see the spot, the lamppost all the way down to the next corner. Run for that lamppost and that light, dragging this heavy cart behind me, my eyes closed, peeking every now and then to make sure I didn't trip. I was so afraid of the dark, but I was so in love with the curiosities that came from watching all that stuff and exposing my mind to those things. So when we get to something like the Jinn, well, ghosts before that, the paranormal before that. The Jinn is something, pardon me while I have to adjust this. It seems to be sagging just a little bit. There we go. I think I've adjusted it. There, those of you listening on the radio, you don't get the advantage of seeing the screen. I've got to adjust this camera because it's my phone and not my computer. And I think it's slow but sure. It's kind of sagging a little bit. It's kind of like being an old man. It's kind of like going from my buff beach body 40 years ago and gradually watching myself over 40 years decline into, oh, why is that all sagging? That never sagged before. That's Muslim. And used to be anyway. Anyway, so pardon the adjustments I have to make to the camera every now and then. So this thing about the Jinn was something that, along with all the other paranormal stuff that I experienced, I said, there has got to be something to this, or is it all just fairy tales from the Arabian Nights? And of course, as we learned a little bit last night, a lot of those things that you find in the Arabian Nights were stories that were very hardline, hardcore, embedded in those societies and in those cultures. So it was very, very interesting. Rafa says, I used to love Twilight Zone as well. Yeah, great show. So that's where we got last night, was kind of getting our feet wet, our toes wet into this again. And I want to get into some of the origins tonight. And since we are not broadcasting on the radio station right now, believe it or not, because that has to be done through the setup on my computer. Now, the computer works, but the internet does not, so I cannot broadcast that out. This show, by the way, if I did not say it at the beginning, those of you who may have missed the beginning, I'm broadcasting on my phone because my internet is fried tonight, and it's going to be tomorrow, and hopefully it'll all be fixed tomorrow morning. So I cannot broadcast on the internet. I'm broadcasting on my phone, and by broadcasting on my phone, I do not have access to the tools that are embedded in my computer that I cannot get all the encoding to broadcast to the radio station. So we're not broadcasting to radio, but we are broadcasting live everywhere else. And this show will, of course, go into archives over on the radio station if anybody wants to pick it up in audio format later. So, having said all that, we're not broadcasting to the radio station, but we're going live right here, and we're live everywhere else. Where we kind of left off, and my notes are usually right in front of me. You can tell when I have to refer to my notes with my eyes. Now it's on the computer screen behind my camera and the light. So it's over here. If I'm looking over here, it's because all my notes are over there. Now, scholars in Muslim countries, theologians, philosophers, even scientists, they've wrestled with the nature of the Jinn ever since the foundation of Islam in the 7th century. And in the 13th century, the celebrated Persian physician, astronomer, geographer, Zakariya al-Qazwini, Qazwini, Q-A-Z-W-I-N-I, Qazwini, I think it is, wrote a work in Arabic about the universe that defined Jinn as follows. He said this: it is held that the Jinn are serial animals with transparent bodies which can assume various forms. And he noted that opinions differed on what the Jinn really were. He said some consider the Jinn as unruly men, but these persons are of the Mu'tazila. I want to say this right. It's a language I'm not used to saying. M-O-A-T, Moat, E-Z-I-L-E-H, Azila, Mu'tazila, I think. And that's a sect of Muslim free thinkers. And since some hold that God created the angels of light of fire, and the Jinn of its flame, and that all these kinds of beings are usually invisible to men, but that they assume what forms they please, and when their form becomes condensed, they're visible. So that's a little recap from last night. Pardon me, I don't usually hiccup on air, but I've got hiccups. I'm trying to subdue them. Okay, how's that? As John Ward would say when we did this show years ago, he'd say, Scotty, so professional. He's an ass. Anyway, but I love him. Anyway, so moving on. In the 14th century, Mamluk Egypt, a scholar named Muhammad al-Damiri made another effort to explain these remarkable creatures in a kind of a zoological, some say parazoological, opus called Hayat al-Hayawan, The Life of Animals. And the Hayat is an ambitious book that describes 731 different animal species, with numerous digressions into theological opinion, folklore, the traditions of the prophet. What are you supposed to say when you say the prophet bless him or something like that? I'm not Islamic. I'm not Muslim. So and draws on 585 other prose works and 222 poetic sources. Demiri fits Jinn comfortably into the world of animals. Now, do you think of Jinn as animals? So, and by the way, if you're commenting over there and I missed your comment, it's only because it's on a screen about that big now, as opposed to scrolling down my very big computer. And I saw some posts here, and I'm almost afraid to touch things. Sarah said there are some similarities between Jinn relationships, land relationships, between magicians and familiars. And peace be upon them, she said. That's what she said. There it is. Okay. And so with all of this stuff that he's looking into, Al-Damiri fits Jinn comfortably into the world of animals. He describes them as ethereal bodies capable of forming themselves into all kinds of different shapes. They have reason, means they think. They have critical thinking. They have understanding. They have the capability for hard work. They're different from humans. And it's said that they're called Jinn because they are wary and not seen. And he cites a tradition of Abu al-Darada, yes, Abu al-Darada, a companion of the Prophet, peace be upon him. I'm not mocking him. I do that whenever I do that with everything else. So bear with me. A companion of the Prophet. And God created three types of Jinn, a type which are snakes, scorpions, and vermins of the earth, a type that are the breeze in the air, and a type like humans who are subject to judgment and punishment. Now, Muhammad Assad, 1900 to 1992, he lived, a highly regarded European Muslim thinker, an author who converted from Judaism. His birth name was Leopold Weiss. And so Muhammad Assad described Jinn as certain sentient organisms of so fine a nature and of a physiological composition so different from our own that they're not normally accessible to our sense perception. Meaning we don't see very much of them. And if we do, it could just be by accident. If we assume, as we must, that there are living organisms whose biological premises are entirely different from our own, it's only logical to assume that our physical senses can establish contact with them only under very exceptional circumstances. Hence the description of them as invisible beings. Remember Weissman, who we talked about last year, and his experience in meeting with a Jinn. He saw him, I believe, in the doorway, the darkened doorway of old ruins in Egypt. And he did mental things to reach out to them and actually had an audience, according to his account, with a Jinn on a couple of different occasions. I have a woman that I haven't talked to her in a little while now, but we were talking a couple of years ago about working on a book together. She's in Australia, and crikey. And she wrote a book for kids, and it was going to be the ABCs of hieroglyphs, and she wanted me to illustrate it. And I don't know if that project just didn't get off the ground or backburnered, but she was rather nervous about talking about Jinn. As a matter of fact, when I was talking to her was when I was doing this series on the Jinn on the show. And so she said she had had experiences that she believed were jinn. Now, she was of Arabic descent. I couldn't tell you what country exactly, but perfectly Australian. Her husband as well. She had the very cool, crazy Australian accent, and but she had experiences that she was very nervous to even talk about from these invisible beings that were in a house that they lived in Australia. So I'm sorry, no, I think it was in Egypt before they moved to Australia. So if we assume, as we must, this is Weiss, Leopold Weiss, Mohammed Assad, saying, continuing, he said, if we assume, as we must, that there are living organisms whose biological premises are entirely different from our own. Okay, I already read this quote. It's only logical to assume that our physical senses can establish contact with them only under very exceptional circumstances. Now, Assad felt the occasional, very rare crossing of paths between their life mode and ours may well give rise to strange because unexplainable manifestations, which man's primitive fantasy is subsequently interpreted as ghosts or demons and other such supernatural apparitions. We talked last time about the possibility that some think that they are aliens, UFO types of aliens. And they're not those things at all, but that is sometimes the misperception that we have of them because of what they're made of and what we're made of and our perceptions of them. How many times have you seen something or someone? I know many of you out there have claimed to see a ghost or experience a spirit and things like that. How do you know? If you're not experiencing a jinn. The pictures I showed in the captain's cabin last Friday, those I think very well could be a jinn of that dark figure I caught in a very sunny, bright day in Egypt. And most of you who are regulars to this show have seen those before. Field Guy said, I may have seen a ghost on Saturday. Oh, is this the one you told me about? So this is Assad thinks that maybe sometimes when we see these things, his explanation suggests apparitions. And it suggests that jinn inhabit another dimension and that they occasionally enter ours and they interact with us. And such concepts traditionally belong in the realms of science fiction, but should they? Recent work by physicists from many countries on the cutting edge of quantum and superstring theory supports the notion that our universe possesses many more dimensions than the 4 that we're accustomed to. Length, width, height, and time. Maybe then much more exists than we can ordinarily even perceive, and that the idea of jinn is not so fanciful after all, if you consider the multiverse, or the multi-dimensions multiverse. Not talking Marvel here. So to understand why Arabs and Muslims take the concept and the nature of jinn so seriously, we need to journey there. We need to experience the phenomenon close up and, if possible, firsthand. In the exploration of jinn lore and legend that we're going to be talking about for the next few days. In the ancient Arab East, where the jinn phenomena was first reported. We're going to look at all of that. We're going to see how jinn became part of Islam, the revealed religion that laid claim to the mantle of successor of the Judeo-Christian tradition, and investigate a wide variety of jinn legends, beginning in Arabia. And spiraling outward from the Arabian heartlands, we're going to look at how others in the Islamic world view jinn, from Iraq to Palestine and Syria to Egypt Arab North Africa, Spain, Turkey, Iran, and the Indian Ocean. And it's Asian and African shores. And we're also going to explore the impact of Jinn lore on the literature and the cultures of our world, things that we've been associated with over the years. The phenomenon of Jinn is one thing, but the interpretation of Jinn is quite another. While the phenomenon, the experience of Jinn, those interest us greatly, but the only way humans can share an experience is by explaining it, interpreting it, mansplaining it. That's what we do. So by sampling and analyzing a wealth of interpretations of the Jinn phenomenon, we aspire to approach some sort of truth. This is what I said when I wrote some of my own books. I said, like the Nephilim. I said, you cannot bring the Nephilim into a lab or the watchers into a lab, the B'nai Ha-Elohim, and watch them and put a human woman in there with them and go, okay, when the green light comes on, you can have sex. We're going to see if you procreate. You can't test that story. But I think there is sort of an ad hoc scientific method in place by all the varied accounts and all the varied stories. And you put those all together and you start seeing a scientific methodology of anecdotal experience. I think that's very valid. Snap it, field guy, snap that rubber glove. So what I'm looking at here with this little series we're going to do that makes it different, I think, than what we've talked about the Jinn before. And you might think, why are we talking about Jinn again? Didn't we talk about Jinn before a couple of times already? Yeah, we did. But we've talked about all kinds of things more than once. It's to try to educate ourselves to understand. See, I have this big thing, and you know me, if you're a listener of the show for a long time, I want to know things. I know it takes faith. Faith of the heart. Oh, sorry. That song came to mind. Enterprise. The theme song that everybody seemed to hate, but I liked. But it takes faith. I understand that. But I don't want to live by faith alone. I want to know things. I don't want to say, oh, I know that because somebody said it's so and I believe it. The Bible said it's so. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so. Now, that's an act of faith. I remember the song when I was a youth pastor, and we sang the song with the kids. And this is a little bit of a rabbit trail, but when the universe fell from his fingertips, he decided he wanted some fellowship, but the man and the woman would not submit. So he made a better way. When the moment was right, he sent his own son, who would open the way so that everyone could have hope and believe that when time was done, he'd be able to make us one. And then the chorus, which I would sing to my kids at bedtime sometimes, despite my struggles with faith and religion. To hear with my heart, to see with my soul, to be guided by a hand I cannot hold, to trust in a way that I cannot see. That's what faith must be. So there it is. What is faith? Faith is putting your trust in something you can't see. It's a hand you can't hold. I struggle with that. It pulls on my heartstrings, but I struggle with it. I want to know things. And I think the same thing with the Jinn. This is something like ghosts and spirits and all this other stuff. I want to know why it works. I want to know what's there. I want to experience it. I said, was it in the captain's cabin the other night? I said, I want to experience a Jinn. Somebody said, oh, don't ever say that. You don't know what you're going to get. And that's very possible. Like I said, I don't want to experience something that's going to make me pee my sheets at night, or scare the shit out of me, or say, now you have seen me, I must eat your flesh. I don't want that going on. I don't want any of that. No flesh eating, please. I just want to know them. I want to meet them. Sometimes getting bogged down with the details makes you miss the bigger picture, says Sarah. Maybe so. What did Solomon say? Was it the book of Proverbs or Ecclesiastes? The making of many books, there is no end, and much study is a weariness to the flesh, he said. Sounds very Ecclesiastes. So you might be right, but I want to know things. I don't want to just maybe believe, kind of think that this thing might be maybe true because somebody wrote it down in a book 2,000 years ago. That goes against every grain in me. So my hope is that this journey that we're going to take in this little series is going to tell the story of these remarkable beings in sufficient detail and with enough flavor to satisfy my curiosity. Oh, and yours too. Yes, this is for me. I say I do all these things. I do this show. Everything I do, every book I write, all of that is because it's something I want to do and I want to enjoy. The minute I can't enjoy it, the minute it's no longer fun, the minute I'm not satiating some curiosity, I'm done. I'll exit stage left. So my hope is that it's going to do that for us. This is my curiosity that I hope I can spill onto you. With all my times in Egypt, I wanted to see these things, and I think I may have. That figure in that story you know so much about. All of those things are things that are meaningful in building my experience. But you know what? And Sarah, maybe you're right here, because even after all the experiences I've had, that some people go, oh, they say, I wish I could have the experiences you have. And yet I say I'm still unsatisfied. I still have not satisfied that curiosity. It was like, what did they ask? Not Rockefeller. Was it Getty? One of the Pentaveret. The Rothschilds, the Gettys, the Rockefellers, and Colonel Sanders before he went teeth up. Well, there's one more family. I can't think of who they were. Anyway, one of them said, he was asked the question, how much money is enough? And he was very elderly at this time. He said, just a little bit more. Maybe that's what I have with my curiosity. Hey, Scott Allen, welcome to the chat room tonight. Vanderbilts, that's the Vanderbilts. You know what I'm talking about, don't you, Kalina? With the Pentaveret. They live in a place called the Meadows. Anyway, something totally different. So I hope that this journey starts to satiate our curiosity, that it lays down a useful path for further research and inquiry. Sometimes I think I must have a speech impediment that I don't know about. So I catch myself talking sometimes, and I'm like, I'm almost going, like my tongue gets laid up behind my teeth or something. Especially when I'm doing my F's. I'm like, what the hell is that? I don't remember ever having that. And of late, recent couple of years, I've noticed that more. Maybe you don't hear it, I feel it. Oh well, it is what it is. All right. So let's look at, we've finally gotten to the origins. And we've got about 14 minutes left before we leave the radio audience, which is actually not with us tonight. This will be a recording for them to hear over on the radio station tomorrow, archived. But for all of you out here in the look at me going blank. Old man, brain cell. Only need some alcohol with that. Not StreamYard, YouTube and Facebook and all the other places where this show is playing. You'll be able to hear it. I think we can just do a little morph over into the captain's cabin at some point, and we'll see if we can take calls on this thing. I think we can. So there is a little something I want to read to you here from Zakariya al-Qazwini. He was the cosmographer that we spoke about just a little bit ago. He said, "It is related in histories that a race of Jinn in ancient times, before the creation of Adam, inhabited the earth and covered it, the land and the sea, and the plains and the mountains, and the favors of God were multiplied upon them. And they had government and prophecy and religion and law, but they transgressed and offended and opposed their prophets, and made wickedness to abound in the earth. Whereupon God, whose name be exalted, sent against them an army of angels, who took possession of the earth, and drove away the Jinn to the regions of the islands, and made many of them prisoners." That was Zakariya al-Qazwini, cosmographer. Now, Jinn are best known as an Arab and or Islamic phenomenon. In Arabic tradition, the Jinn is a spirit creature. It's often linked to nature with the ability to manifest itself physically. The Jinn have great powers, sometimes miraculous abilities, we would consider them, which humans normally lack. And Jinn are usually divided into five major categories: Jan, Jinn, Shaitan, Ifrit, and Marid. Now, these terms sometimes overlap, and they're often not as precise as one would like. Jan, Jann, is a collective term referring to the masses of Jinn of all types. The term is sometimes interchangeable with Jinn. And so Jinn is used more often to refer to specific individuals or families or tribes or fire spirits. Jinn can be good or evil, but shaitans, or Satan is the word, or devils, shaitan, Satan, different language. Devils, they're the children and the servants of the chief devil, Iblis, the equivalent of the West's Satan. And they're always evil. Ifrits are more powerful than shaitans, and most are often pretty evil. Not evil, they're evil. Marids are evil as well, and most powerful of all. And all of the above categories have the ability to shapeshift, to shield themselves with invisibility, so their appearance varies depending on circumstances. What do you got there, Rafa? Al-Shatamu. Al-Shatamu. There you go. And they both dress in red, says Field Guy. Yakety, yakety, yakety. Well, thanks for your contribution, Field Guy. I always wondered what they wore. So the various categories of Jinn were created separately. And according to creation myth, reported by the Arab historian Abu al-Hassan Ali al-Masudi, he lived in the late 800s, mid to mid 900s AD. He called by some the Herodotus of the Arabs. You know who Herodotus is, right? As a field guy, you know who Herodotus is? Brush up your Herodotus. We were giving away free tomes, books of Herodotus's works when John and I were doing Intrepid Radio years ago. So he was called the Herodotus of the Arabs. In his celebrated Meadows of Gold, al-Masudi explains the consequence of this creation. Now, this is from his work. This is written, if you're talking in the 940s, 930s to the 940s AD, that's how many years ago? Somebody do the math quick. He wrote this over 1,000 years ago. He said, it is said that God created the demons from the Semum, or the burning wind. That from the demon he created his woman, as he created Eve from Adam. That the demon, having bad relations with his woman, she became pregnant from him and laid 30 eggs. The demon having had relations, not bad relations. Sorry, I should have put on my glasses. Having had relations with the woman, she became pregnant from him and laid 30 eggs. Now, one of these eggs cracked open, giving birth to the Cotobalt, which was, so to speak, the mother of all the Kotrobs. So demons that had the form of a cat. So from another egg emerged the Iblises, in whose number must be counted El Harith Aban Murah, and which make their home within walls. From another egg were hatched the Maradas, which inhabit islands. Another produced the ghouls, which chose for their refuge ruins and deserts. Another, the Silas, which hide in the mountains. The others, the Ohuas. Somebody who speaks Arabic, rescue me on that one. The Ouahaois. Auhois. I think something like that. Yahowas, which inhabit the air in the form of winged serpents, and they fly around. Marids are evil as well, most powerful of all. Above all the, I'm sorry, and I jumped backwards. And they fly around the air from place to place. From another egg emerged the Dausics. From yet another, the Hamasics. From still another, the Hamamis, and so forth, he says. Those are his writings over 1,000 years ago. Back of the throat. I'll get it right one of these days, Sarah. So most of these types of jinn are going to be encountered and explained later in this little series that we're going to do. But the egg motif appears in the earliest creature creation myths of many peoples, including the Greeks, the Egyptians, the Hindus, the Chinese, suggesting a pre-Islamic origin for El-Masidi's account. But its exact source is unknown. You think of the Ogdode in Egypt, which I've studied, and we've talked about on this show. I've written about in my book. The Ogdode came down in the 8 eggs to the creation mound, which is where they built the temple of Menedhat Habu, where I have been several times. It's a very interesting place. It's in Luxor, just in front of the Theban mountain range. The Arabs' belief in jinn long predates Islam, and it played a role of considerable importance in the 7th century environment in which the Islamic faith was born. According to this ancient belief, spirits were believed to haunt dark and desolate locales in the desert, and people needed to protect themselves from these beings. And it's often assumed that belief in the jinn, who were thought to dwell in the desert, originated with the Bedouin, and it was passed from them to the settled tribes. And German scholar Joseph Henninger says, this assumption does not seem to me to be well-founded. Now, Bedouin tribesmen who are at home in the desert experience much less fear in those regions than do villagers or townspeople who are often terrified by the desert and are convinced that all sorts of demons and monsters live there. And among the Arabs today, Henninger asserts, belief in spirits is much more intense than among the settled, the agricultural population, than among the Bedouin. So this isn't to say that the Bedouins of the Arabian Peninsula disbelieve in the jinn. This belief is very much a part of their everyday lives. But nomadic Arabs are generally less frightened by the jinn than they are their settled counterparts. Why do you think that is? For the very reason that they live out there, in a sense, amongst them. It's part of their existence. That's what happens out there. We got about 3 minutes left for the radio audience, and we're going to move to the captain's cabin. Let's see. Can I actually fit a little bit more in before we do that? Nah, there is so much more to what I've just ended on. We're going to talk about William F. Albright. I got a big text of his sitting on my shelf here somewhere. My Egyptian works by Albright. Is that it? Yeah, I think this is one of them. Let's see. Oh, it's heavy. It's just an old, dense book. No, this is breasted. His History of Egypt. These are some of the books that I collected when I was doing all my writing on Nephilim, and so this one isn't Albright. This is breasted. So there we go. All right, radio audience, guess what? Hey, Travis Thorpe. Jinn equals lightning, he says, made of smokeless flame, the magic of God's sky daddy. El Adonai, Elohim, a thunder god. Excellent, Travis. I agree. You could murder someone with that book. Yeah, you could. Look at this thing. It's so dense and heavy. The way this is put together is incredible. You can't see it. The light washes it out, but you get the idea. Here, we'll lay it on the desk. There it is. All right. So let's get out of here for the radio audience. Everybody else, stick around. I want to see how this is going to work on you. A tome, indeed. Yes, a ton of a tome. Now, we'll see how this is going to work on here. I'm going to give it a shot, and we'll give it a try. So let's see. Where do we go from here? We're going to go to our exit. And so everybody, you just stay put. We'll be back in a couple of minutes with the captain's cabin and your calls. Stand by.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid radio program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Come on. It's not working. I oughta. Let's try something different here. Let's see. Does this one work? Hey folks, this is Scotty Roberts, and this is the Intrepid radio broadcast. I've been broadcasting for about 20 years now, covering such topics as science, politics, the paranormal, weird science, weird world history, archaeology, and the paranormal. Everything from ghosts to cryptids to creepy things that go bump in the night. So every week I bring you 3 new episodes. Come and join my channel and also be a patron to this site. So see the details below, and we'll see you here.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad, so he can take me to Disneyland.
Well, I think I'm back. On my end, all of that was very choppy, so I hope it played well for all of you. That's what I get for having to do this on my phone tonight. So once again, for all of those of you who joined us mid-show and didn't know what was going on, the internet absolutely went down here tonight, just a couple of hours before the show, and it's not going to be fixed till tomorrow morning. And so we're broadcasting on my phone. So I hope that everything has come across all well. And can't even talk anymore. We'll see. We'll see. Hopefully it all works for you. I think I've got one guest, but it's not telling me who it is. Oh, there we are. It's Adriana. Let's bring Adriana in. So I'm clicking on you. Let's see if you're coming aboard. I click on you again. Add to stage. Boom. There we go.
Hey, Scotty.
Adriana, how you doing?
Good, and you?
I'm good. What's going
Can you hear me
on?
all right?
I can hear you all right.
Perfect.
There's Field Guy too. I'm going to bring him in as well.
Definitely.
It works.
I gotta touch all this stuff on my little touch screen on my phone.
There we go.
Oh, it's a big one.
Although the banner's got my head cut off, so I got to.
We're
do
all
this.
here.
Wait
What's that?
There we go.
Field Guy? Yeah, there we go. We're here.
The banner
Yeah,
had my head cut off.
off.
I had to move my laptop.
I'm going to take off this banner, or my proscenium arch. Let's remove that right there.
There we go.
Hide, it says. There it is. Boom.
It's gone.
All right.
It's just a little bit slower. When you do StreamYards on the phone, everything is slower. I haven't done it in a while.
I'm
but
noticing that.
When I lost my charger to my laptop a few years ago, I did a few of them on the phone, and it was slow. And the glitches.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they have a glitch sometimes with
the glitches are amazing tonight. And I can't tell if it's playing well on your end, on the listeners' ends.
It sounds exactly as if you had your as if you were on your system.
Well, that's good. That's good then.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
let me
what I'm
just
saying.
say hello to Lucky Stone out there in the chat room, and Steph Cuervo Queen.
It'll
And
sound,
who else we got?
It'll sound crappy on your end, but on this end, it was good.
That's good. Rafa is still around. That's good. Let's see. What did Steph say? Maybe field we have a Pluto. The scrolling is so choppy. I can't keep up. So
Well, I thought
sorry
I saw
about
a
that,
ghost.
folks.
That's just me. I thought I did.
So tell us about your little ghost story. What'd you see?
I went to the. I got pictures on here somewhere. I went to the. I keep saying Rosewood, but it's Rose Down Plantation. It's right down the. Maybe 2 miles from the Myrtles, and it's a plantation and all. But I could have sworn I saw something in the mirror, but I could have sworn I heard something too. So it's not 100%. I don't know if it picked up on I put a video on YouTube. I don't know if it picked up or not. I think it did.
I'm going to have to see that. I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, it's like in a mirror or something, because my aunt took a picture in a mirror and she goes, and I'm looking at it and you could see her, but you could see something else in the background. And I was on the side, but there was no one else in that room, but you can see something in the mirror. So it's a little, I don't know what it was, but I think I have it. Everybody took more photos than I did, but
sure. Let's see. It's very tiny on my. That's the place where you were.
Yeah, Rosewood. I mean Rose Down.
I can't make out any details on this. I just see that it's an old mansion.
It's a plantation. Yeah,
it's a plantation house. We don't call them mansions down here. They are plantations.
I took video and stuff, but wait a minute. But I'm not gonna. I don't know what that is. It's a buggy.
I'm gonna have to look at those when I'm back on my computer, because Fieldy, I can make out the basics of what you're showing me, but I can't see any details. You can show them. Everybody else might be able to see them.
Yeah, it's kind of. Well, I didn't take a whole lot of. I had to delete a bunch of stuff on my phone.
Steph needs to call in and tell us about her Conjuring House experience. So, Adriana.
Yes, sir.
Oh. Did you have a story you want to share with us, or anything you want to say? I've kind of leapfrogged over you into Fieldy's story. So, what's going on with you?
Nothing. I'm just listening, and I'm working on a project of mine. So, but
right on.
Yeah, when you were talking about how, your interest, how your curiosities,
yes,
all of these subjects and everything. I know, like with myself growing up, during the summers, my parents would ship myself and my sister over to Jersey to visit my grandparents, and they had some land, and it has a forest and everything like that. And one of the best memories that I had is that they had a set of encyclopedias, and I would just grab a volume and go onto the hammock, and I would just sit there for hours just flipping through the pages.
Nice. Was it anything like Breasted's work on Egypt?
No, well, I think it was like the World Book Encyclopedia, but I mean, all the subjects and everything is, if something piqued my curiosity, I just started reading about it. And if I had more interest in it, then yeah, my grandparents would take me to the library to find more information and stuff like that, where I had to look up in card catalogs and stuff like that. So
Yes.
I don't know, I think maybe like nowadays it's just with the internet and everything, it's like there's in some ways too much information to try to process everything compared
Sure.
to when we were growing up. It's like
That's
you
it.
had to take your time, but you were so enamored by the subject, it just still kept your curiosity, because if one tome didn't have the information that you were looking for, or if you had other questions, you went back to the card catalog and found another book that might have the answer. Unlike now, you get slammed with info, whether everything on the subject that you're looking up.
Yes.
So
Yes. By the way, this morning you sent me pictures of temples.
yeah.
This is this is Esna. This is an old painting. It's inside the flyleaf of it's not even a flyleaf. It's the one of the inside pages
Uh-huh.
of that's the temple of Esna, which is very close. Well, we stopped at Esna and then we went down to Edfu,
Hmm.
which is where the temple you saw. Then we were at
Yeah.
Philae later on, but that's in this book by
Okay.
Breasted, which was originally
Yeah.
published in 1903.
Okay. Just so everyone knows, there was something came up on my feed pertaining to Egyptology, so I sent it over to Scotty to see if he was there, and he's like, "Well, that's not there. That's not that place. It's a different place." So.
They're easy to mix up sometimes. The first time I went to Egypt, John Ward said to me after about 2 weeks, he says, "So, Scotty, are you stoned out yet?"
Oh dear Lord.
That's what he said. He said, after a while, you see so many stones, and each one is significant. Same with temples. Everything's cool, it's significant, amazing to see. But after a while, they all start blending together. And I think that's probably what happened to this person. They put up a picture and they went, "Oh, that's the temple of Philae,"
Well,
when
I
it was
just thought it was.
actually Edfu.
Mhm. I just thought it was fascinating as to, the original picture where it's like stand all the way up to the top of the columns
Yes.
compared to after the excavation of everything, and it just in awe as to how all of that sand,
And
just manually got dug out.
that temple was completely buried.
Hmm.
And when they discovered it, the town was already there, the modern town, and they
Hmm.
excavated and they dug. It's actually in a big, almost like a big square pit that goes down about 50, 60, more than that, 80 feet into the ground.
Oh,
But it's
okay.
big and open. So you don't even get the feeling that you're in a pit other than when you're up on the top on the street, leaning on a railing, looking down into this big pit at this temple.
Hmm.
And it's just amazing. And some of the pictures, if you go to my Facebook and go through my photo albums, there
Hmm.
should be an album there that's completely dedicated to Philae and to Edfu and to some of the different places that we were.
I'll definitely
So,
check it out.
because we went, the first year was just John and I. We went more into the Sinai. We went Cairo, the Sinai, then down to Luxor. And then the next year, we took about 13, 14 people with us. We took them on a tour to retrace
Hmm.
what we had done in the Sinai. And then we took them all the way down or up the Nile, because the Nile flows north. So we went
Of
up the
course.
Nile to the south, all the way down to Aswan. And we watched the sunrise on the morning of the birthday of Ramesses II at his temple of Abu Simbel.
Oh
And
wow.
on that morning, the sun will rise and it will shine right into the main door of the temple. That's the temple. Abu Simbel is the one with the huge, gigantic statues of Ramses seated, two of them on either side of the doorway, the little tiny doorway at the bottom.
Oh, I know
And
which one.
the light
Okay.
would shine in there, the sunlight,
Mhm.
on sunrise, and illuminate the statues of Ramses and his family on his birthday.
Cool.
So it was pretty cool.
I like
Anyway,
that.
hey, Kelly Bell. Welcome to the chat room. I didn't mean to drive Field Guy off. Oh, maybe he's still there. Okay.
He's still there. He's just on mute.
He's still there somewhere. I keep grabbing my mouse to move things, and I can't do it because I got to go up here. So, Fieldy, you'll have to give us some links where you post that stuff because I'd like to see your pictures and your videos. So, once again, everybody who's joining us new, we are broadcasting via phone tonight, just simply because our internet went out. So we're getting it fixed in the morning and should be back fully functional. So hopefully for Robertson tomorrow night, Tuesday night. So anyway, who else has got something going on? What else you got going on, Adriana?
Just some projects for work, trying to concentrate on projects that I want to do. So that's why I'm working on this diamond art. I'm trying to think, what else am I working on? We had company over this past weekend from Minnesota that I haven't seen in a while. So they were here for the whole weekend. It was nice seeing them.
Nice.
Yeah. And just basically same old, same old.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
So yeah, we're kind of doing the same here, not with guests so much as just every day seems to melt into the next day, and it's all the same stuff we were doing yesterday. We're now doing again today.
Mm-hmm.
So and tomorrow, I take kids to school tomorrow morning, and there you go.
Everything's the cycle.
Summer's coming though. They keep reminding me.
Yes.
So what else is going on, folks? Who out there, as you can see, I've kind of drained myself of material for this evening. I mean, I could hop back into the material. We could keep going. But this part of the show is for you guys. Where's Jason tonight?
Where's Sarah?
And bless you, by the way. So, where's Jason? Get him in here.
Just bring up thongs and he'll pop in.
There you go.
That's all you got to do.
Oh, you know what?
We didn't see him in chat. He may be sleeping. I don't know.
Oh, here's Sarah. Let's bring Sarah aboard.
Where's the usual cast of characters? Come on now.
Add to stage.
Sarah!
Everything's so slow on the phone. There we go. Hey, Sarah.
Yeah.
Hey,
Delayed
guys.
reaction.
Oh, I hope I didn't just lose everybody. I just X'd that window out. Not we're all here, I think.
Hear you.
All right. Look at that. I'm the only guy with a face tonight.
In
So-
4K quality.
Oh, there's Fieldy.
I turned my
So what's going on,
laptop
Sarah?
Just business as usual. Feels like a Monday. Which
It sure
It
does.
is Monday.
It's weird that.
I think
Elderberry
it is.
says it's mid to late spring weather in the middle of winter. That's very true.
Yeah.
It's still February here. And we
winter and
had
what's spring?
64, 65 degrees today. And now tomorrow, we're going to get this Arctic blast that comes and goes whoosh. We're going to drop down into the 28 degrees in the morning. And then it's going to be cold all day tomorrow, really cold tomorrow night, and cool on Wednesday. But then Thursday, it jumps back into the 40s, then the 50s on Friday, the 60s on Saturday. We're talking 70 by Sunday. That's pretty good
For us,
for
there's
The last 3 days here, it was 79, 80, 80. And it's supposed to, then they got a
Nice.
cool front coming that's supposed to put us back in the 50s. You know, so
I remember being down there this time of year. So
yeah, this is when it starts
Was
to
that
heat
3
up.
years
Getting
ago?
to April.
was that 3 years ago I was down there? We called
Operation
it
Takeover.
what do we call it? The Studio of the South? We called it something when we were broadcasting from down there.
Oh, I haven't talked to Grump in a while. I think we called it Operation Trail of Takeover or something.
What's that, Sarah?
The swamp.
Lake Charles is not
the
a swamp. No, you gotta go further down to that.
Close enough. There was swamp all around us. I was surprised he didn't step out of the trailer in the morning and step on a croc. So
no, that's further down. And it's more alligators and crocodiles in the state. But that
reminds me of one of my favorite old Tom Hanks movies. Was made in the early to mid 80s, called Volunteers. If you haven't seen that, Tom Hanks, John Candy.
Never heard of it.
Who else was in that? That kind of quirky. I think he's Korean actor. He's kind of quirky, kind of always talk like this, and he had this weird thing going on about him. But he was a great comic actor. And then the woman in that movie, Rita something, she ended up marrying Tom Hanks after that movie. They've been married ever since.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I can't remember her last name.
Wilson.
It's Rita Wilson.
Rita Wilson.
Yeah.
And so they got married after that movie. I thought that was a great movie, but it's a movie about a rich kid in the 60s who his dad won't bail him out of gambling debts, so he trades places with a friend of his who was going in the Peace Corps to Thailand. And he ends up in Thailand, running from these mafioso types. And he gives his little Corvette or Ferrari, whatever it was, to his friend to get his airline ticket. And he ends up in Thailand, and when he jumped the plane, he's wearing, Humphrey Bogart, the white dinner jacket with the black bow tie and the black pants. And so he ends up in Thailand. And the next morning, he's waking up from a hangover. And this is a long build-up to what I was saying. Ah, yes, the swamp, stepping out of he gets up in the morning. He's got a mosquito net wrapped around his face. He doesn't know where he is. He staggers off the end of the platform with the straw roof over the top and lands in the mud. And he looks up and he goes, ah, yes, Thailand. So that's the way I thought about Lake Charles. I'd get up in the morning and I'd stagger out. And especially after a fun night with the Mexicans and our crew, and you'd stagger out in the morning, you go, and walk outside in February, and it's 85 degrees, and the sun is beating on my face, and I go, oh, yes, it's Lake Charles. So there you go.
There's really no winter here. There's no winter. It gets chilly, and it doesn't even cool down here until December. And then by March, April, it's already starting to get in the 80s again. But the thing that kills it is the humidity. The humidity never goes away, and that's why it doesn't.
I can handle heat. You put me in the desert in Egypt, now the heat can wear you out. But when we were down at Gebel El Silsila, when I was there for a month working on the site with them, Gebel El Silsila, about maybe 100 miles south of Luxor in the Komombo district. It's the narrowest point in the Nile where their quarry site was. That was ancient quarry site, their archaeological site. And it could get 115, 120 degrees. And it didn't feel anything like 85 degrees in Louisiana with the humidity. Oh, yeah, we just sit back and we fan ourselves. And we drink a little mint julep or a little bourbon, sit back on the veranda, have our punkawallas fanning us.
Well, that's what that plantation was. We walked into the ladies' parlor, and then right next to it was the men's parlor. And the tour guy, I was the only guy on the tour, and the lady goes, here's the ladies' parlor where the ladies sit and gossip. And she points to me, and she goes, about him. And I go, oh, was I here in the 1850s? Okay, I guess I was.
So did the men's parlors smell like cigar smoke?
It It didn't, but I saw there were two rifles. There was this rare rifle. There was a Remington, and there was some kind of rare rifle from Warner Brothers. And then the tour guide goes, "It's not the same Warner Brothers." And I go, "How do you know that?"
How do you know?
But they had 3 big bottles of brandy from like the 1860s sitting up there.
Nice.
Which wasn't I didn't film that part because that was towards the end. But yeah, the ladies' parlor was all decked out in like red velvet and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, it was.
Thank you, Elderberry.
It was pretty cool. Go Chefs.
Elderberry says I do the Southern Flower great. So.
You talk more like Leonardo DiCaprio and Django than you do anybody. Yeah, you got an accent. You ought to.
I'm thinking of still my favorite was Dennis Quaid playing Doc Holliday in the Kevin Costner Wyatt Earp movie. And he said, "Yeah, that tuberculosis type of voice going on." And he says, yes. He says, Georgia. He said, Georgia was a green and lovely place. I fear I shall never see her again. There was a man so offended my sensibilities I sought to take his life. But better judgment took me. And he coughs into his tuberculosis. So, Georgia. Georgia was a green and lovely place.
I wouldn't know. I ain't stepped foot in that state, and I don't plan to. That's the enemy.
Sarah, what is your best accent that you can do?
I can't do any accents. I mean, most of the time I don't even hear accents, and people tell me I have an accent, or don't lack of one.
Yeah,
so you don't recognize
I have an accent? I don't.
I'm accent blind.
Well, people will like say someone who does an impression of my mother, they make her sound like Apu from The Simpsons, and I'm like, I don't hear it. It's like the same as me talking to you. You know, it's like when she says something, it's like,
well, thank you, come like again. Every now and then. There it is. Adriana, do you have an accent to share with us?
Only thing that I have is when I suffer from Southern vapors.
Oh, Southern Baker?
Yes.
Southern Baker, Southern Belle.
Southern vapors.
And make them. See, I used to, when I was a kid, I would listen to voices and I would listen to accents. And that was how I learned them, just for fun. I was into theater and stuff when I was a kid. And by the way, it's too bad Jason isn't here with us. JP, he could do.
Songman, where are you at?
Well, I know my son, he had
He's probably busy.
With requirements at school and everything. He had to take a drama class. And he's really good at accents. I mean, his teacher would say, pick a nationality and he'd be able to spit it out. So
nice. What's fun is sitting and watching old clips of Robin Williams going through all these different accented characters all at one time, just from one to another, jumping.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to watch, because of the reenacting we did, the military reenacting with the Scottish regiments and stuff, we would watch movies like Rob Roy with Liam Neeson. And we'd listen to how they do their accents and how they say their words. And so, yeah, that's what we learned. Just doing them over and over again.
I don't know if it's true or not, but when they were shooting doing Aladdin, they first let usually they draw the scene and then the actors come in and do their thing. But I think in Robin Williams' case, they did the opposite. They let him go through that and then try to animate towards that. So
and they tried to catch up with him with the animation.
Yeah.
Because he was highly unstable, mentally crazy. That's why.
No, he had Lewy body dementia.
What kind of dementia did he have?
Lewy body.
Yeah, same thing that's got Wendy Williams and The other person that they just said has the
Isn't it
Bruce Willis.
I was going to say Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
I think their dementias are different though. If I remember correctly.
Well, it said
I don't know
front
anything about
lobal
them.
something, but
there's different types, but I mean,
they were filming Bruce Willis the other day on Instagram, his daughter or something, and he was like, "Fuck yeah, hello." He had no idea what he was saying, but he was like, "Yeah, fuck yeah," and I watched this and I'm like laughing. They were
who's that? Bruce?
He don't talk much now.
In certain cases, you know, like with Tony Bennett, you know, people would say, "Oh, Tony's really, you know, he really slowed down." But you know, as soon as his song cue came on, right, he would just snap back and sing it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, those things were so ingrained.
There's studies where music will kick you out of it. I've seen it on YouTube where people, they don't know where they are or what they're doing, and you play certain songs and they light up and their brain lights up and they can tell you everything about this and that. Music stops, they go right back to what they were before.
Well, I have mentioned before, my grandfather, my mom's dad, who had the little island down in the Honduras, he started in his mid-70s. He started what we called slipping a little bit. And now he passed away in 95. So you're talking, he died 30 years ago. But 30 years ago, we would look at him and say, Grandpa's slipping a little bit. And we had to, as a matter of fact, we had to go down and get him from the island down in Honduras because, and help him close his stuff up and get him on a plane and get him back here. And he was still functioning. He was still doing his things, but you could tell he was slipping. He had that walking stick that's back there. And he would sit in his living room with that walking stick. And he would slip a little bit and he'd forget. But if you asked him to, hey, Grandpa, why don't you tell the girls here, my young daughters at the time, he said, why don't you tell them The Highwayman by Alfred Noyes? And, he would light up like that and go, oh, the wind was a torrent of darkness among the gusty trees. And, the road was a purple ribbon, along the purple moor. And the highwayman came riding up to the old inn door. And he would just recite the whole thing. And it was animated. And he was passionate about it. And so he'd recited it, I think, so many times. It was so much a part of his psyche that he was able to do that. Did Jackie Chan have dementia? Kelly Moran says. Jackie Chan?
He still comes in movies. So
I hadn't quite heard about that one. Well, guys, here's what we're going to do. It is 10:30 on the nose, my time, Central Standard Time. We're going to call it a show for tonight. I want to thank you guys for all being here. I don't know how to get rid of you on here just to say my goodnights. Let's see. Let me find out.
We could just get rid of ourselves. I can just exit myself out.
I guess you could.
I do this. Bye,
because I don't know how to do it. Yeah. Live long and prosper. I can't do it. My right hand. There you go. So as everybody exits, I'll come back to full screen. I'll give a little good night address. So Adriana, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
I appreciate your presence. Thanks for coming on. And Sarah, thank you for being here as always.
All right. Thanks.
And we'll see you next time.
Sure. We'll get into
Have a good night.
The Jinn. Yeah.
We will. All right. And so everybody else, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for being part of the show. I really appreciate you being here. Let's see. Next time will be Wednesday. We'll get back into the Jinn on Wednesday. And tomorrow night, I have not talked to Wendy yet today, but we'll probably talk tomorrow morning. And we'll see about Robertson for 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon, Central Standard Time, of course. So everybody, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you again. I got to remember my mouse does not work on my phone. I keep touching my mouse out of habit. And stop to help, it makes me touch him. That's what my mouse says. So just trying to scroll to the right place so we can get out of here in the right amount of time. If I don't push any other buttons that I'm not supposed to be pushing, there it is. So everybody, I want to thank you for being here again. We'll see you next time. Anybody new here tonight, thank you for coming. And for now, live long and prosper. We'll see how long I can hold this before it kicks in. I don't know if I'm punching it more times than I need to, but there it is. We'll see you guys. Good night.